Hello, and welcome to MoviePod, a Reclaimed Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Brian Wishart. This is just going to be a bonus episode. Last week I attended the Forest City Film Festival, which is London, Ontario's film festival. So I saw about 28 screenings there, as well as a couple of volunteer shifts. So I saw a lot of good movies. So the Forest City Film Festival, they have a good mix of movies that are international and maybe have played at other film festivals, as well as a lot of local, more Canadian movies from Ontario, movies from this region, short film showcases. So I got to see a good mixture of all kinds of movies. I got the All Films Pass, so I completely abused that, and so I saw a lot. I made an effort to see a lot of movies I missed at TIFF. There's a few big ones. I think the first thing I'm going to go through is talk about what's so good about going to a local film festival. Of course, a smaller festival like Forest City Film Festival is not going to have the same celebrity attendance as something like TIFF or as big of movies. The programmers do a great job of actually programming a good wide selection of movies, and I just gone online, look at other film festivals, just random cities across North America, as well as I've talked to some people who are online who live in Europe, and there's local small film festivals too, and you can see a lot of fantastic movies, similar movies to the ones I'm seeing right now at your local film festivals. So I'd absolutely recommend, if there's still some festivals playing anywhere in your area, to at least go to one or two screenings there. Sometimes you can just beat people to the punch for what's playing at your multiplex. I was at this theater today and I saw my first trailer for Sentimental Value. I've seen the movie twice at festivals already. And so if you're the kind of person seeing movies for anyone else, that's probably a great thing to do. But if you're someone just loves watching movies, it's kind of a great way just to kind of see something in a festival environment. I've had fantastic crowds the entire time at the festival. No one really on their phone, no one being loud or disruptive. Which is great because I saw 28 screenings. So probably my favorite movie of the festival was something I already saw at TIFF and loved, which is Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice. It comes out Christmas Day. I've talked about it a little bit already, as well as a few other movies that play at Forest City when I did my TIFF episode with Andrew Potter. So I'm not going to go too deep into those. You can go back to my old episode and take a listen at that. No Other Choice is probably my number one or number two favorite movie of the year. It's absolutely rip-roaring hilarious, and it's beautifully shot. Another movie I saw at TIFF, I also saw again here, was Sentimental Value. That movie is just, I think it's beautiful, emotional, touching, funny. I definitely talk about more in the other episodes, so go check that out. I think my favorite movie that was in competition at Forest City Film Festival was something I missed this time around, but I saw it at TIFF, which was a movie called Nika Madison, which is described by the director as a indigenous Thelma and Louise. So it's set around the Toronto area. It is really, really touching and very entertaining movie about a friendship between two indigenous young women who, one stayed on the reserve, one moved to the city and became a lot more westernized, and situation pops out where they're kind of on the run from the law. She has to return to the reserve, and they kind of on run for the cops, while meanwhile we see what the cops are trying to investigate on their end. I thought it was a really fantastic movie, so that's a Canadian movie that you should probably definitely keep on your radar. Another one I saw that played here that I saw at TIFF that I did not like was a movie called Peak Everything. It's a French-Canadian romantic comedy. It's about a guy who lives in Quebec. He runs a kennel and he's depressed, so he has one of those seasonal affectional disorder lamps. It breaks down, so he calls the support center. And Pepper Pabero from Coyote Ugly, she's the customer service person on the other line, and he ends up getting attraction towards her. And when the call center in Ontario that she works at goes down, he makes a huge effort to go visit her. It's under a backdrop. This guy's having he's very depressed over climate change happening. So it's charming at points. I found it pretty not remarkable at all. It was a closing gala film for TIFF. Didn't really do anything for me whatsoever. But people who I talked to who liked it really liked it. So, I wouldn't immediately put it on your watch list, but if it pops up somewhere, give it a gander. Another Canadian movie I love, which is incredibly local, it's called Team of the Century, which is the London Knights, my local OHL hockey team. So in 2005, they had a Memorial Cup run, which was just absolutely phenomenal. Their record was absolutely insane. It's unlikely that our team's going to actually get to that record. 20 years later, is looking back at the team and the players and what they were going through when they were going through this whole run, as well as I think the most interesting part of this whole thing. It's not just about how, like, you know, this kick-ass hockey team that just did very, very well for one season, but because it's been 20 years, it's actually a pretty good look at what life after hockey, life after professional sports, life after your junior sports career ends, and, you know, kind of how these men kind of found their own spot within a community that really loves them for their on-ice talent, as well as their way they give back to the community. So, you know, they're my home team, so of course I'm gonna love it. But I thought it was like a really, really like cool way to make a film about a dominant team. Just have the extra space and time, and have reflection back on what the team meant to the city, what the players meant to the city, and what the city and team mean to the players. So it's going to be me tooting my own horn a little bit. So I was an interview subject for a short documentary called The Last Reel. So I was approached by them. It's a documentary about my local cinema called The Highland, which is an independent theater in London, Ontario. So I'm there all the time. I literally just got back from screening of Clue there right now, so I'm there a lot. So they reached out to me just to be a interview subject because they're talking about just, you know, how these theaters work and such, and passionate film communities in cities like this. It's a short, like 8-minute documentary. So they also interview people, you know, who work at the Highland, as well as people who, you know, other frequent attendees such as myself. So it was really cool to actually be an interview subject for something. I've never had that happen before. So yeah, it was cool to see it, you know, be part of that, and then being able to see it play at a film festival and seeing actually 2 separate screenings. So really proud of everyone that worked on that film, and it was like long live local cinema. Like, I love there's truly nothing better than having a place that you can just watch a ton of great, well-programmed films. And so I'll try and find at some point and post on my social media when this will get posted on YouTube or something. You'll get to see me, unfortunately, insult McCluskey and how annoying she is to watch movies with, which she very much is very annoying to watch movies with. What was I watching the other day? I was watching Irreversible, and she kept trying to bash me with a cardboard box because she wanted me to. I don't know. I gave her a cardboard box to rip and tear a couple days beforehand, and she decided, like, hey, like, if I pester Brian enough, maybe he'll give me more food. So I'm just watching horrible things happen in the movie Irreversible, and she just bashed me with a little cardboard box. So it's nice to go to your own local theater, away from your dog, and just enjoy the majesty of cinema. The best Canadian film I saw this whole festival was Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. If you're not aware of Nirvana, the band, the show, started off as a web series in 2008 with Matt Johnson, who's the director of Blackberry, and Jay McCarroll. So the premise of the show is about 2 guys in Toronto who, they're in Nirvana, the band. Jay McCarroll's a musician. Matt Johnson's just a guy who cooks up schemes. So they keep constantly plan to get into the Rivoli, which is just some, little music venue on Queen Street in Toronto. So they have all the harebrained schemes, and they always are the most convoluted things possible. And it's almost in a way like kind of like Jackass, like Bad Grandpa stuff, where like, their stuff is kind of scripted what they're going to do, but there's a lot of crowd reactions of people not expecting what they're going to do, which is absolutely hilarious, which leads to some incredible comedy. Very funny, very like meta show that also has like a lot of great pop culture references. Hilarious show. You can find it pretty easily online. They also then did 2 seasons on Viceland this is a TV show. So then they adapted into a movie, which is basically the same premise, where the 2 guys want to get into the Rivoli by doing the most crazy things possible. This one's a bit of a time travel element to it too, and it is definitely the hardest I've laughed in the theater all year. It's so Toronto, it's so Canadian, and it's just, there's so many parts of it that's almost like Mission Impossible level, like stunts. Like, how the fuck did they pull that off? It is so impressive. It comes out in the theaters in February, and I'm definitely gonna see it again in the theater too, because like that movie with the crowd is absolutely incredible. So Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, it might be my favorite like new thing I saw at this festival. I missed it at TIFF because it was impossible to get a ticket for. I was able to go to the red carpet, but like couldn't get into the movie itself. And it won the Midnight Madness Award at TIFF this year, which is the same award that Substance won last year. So it's a kind of a great movie for a crowd, which is kind of what Midnight Madness movies are all about. So my other favorite like new discovery at Forest City Film Festival was called Sound of Falling. It's a German film. It's set in 4 different time periods, all in this one farmhouse in eastern Germany. So it has 4 different time periods. It follows a girl in each period. As basically, it's like 4 different coming-of-age stories. So one's set in World War One, one's in World War Two, one's in 1980s Cold War, and the other one's in modern times. All like the time periods kind of start blending together. They flow different ways. You don't really know like where each storyline is going to kind of build up to right to the end. So like it's a slow movie. It's kind of a daunting movie. But it's like little things where something awful happens in the local river in like the 1930s, but then 50 years later, you see someone just doing something else in that same river. So it's kind of just like the flow of time and the flow of just like the way the camera moves in the film is just so interesting. It is such an all-encompassing epic. And I've seen people compare it to Tarkovsky, like the director of Stalker. I've only seen Stalker, so I can't really compare it to other movies too. But seeing Stalker, just like the way that the camera just moves and the film flows, it's just, I cannot stop thinking about this film. It's probably the one movie I've seen this year that I keep just going back to more and more. It's just so fascinating and so rich and so developed and so sure of itself. And I've seen some people say it's too depressing, but I found it to be it seems like it's a reflection on German history, and German history, open the history book, it's a lot. So that's going to be Germany's submission to the Oscars for Best Foreign Film, so absolutely check that one out. Another film I absolutely loved was called A Poet. So it's a Colombian film. So it's about a middle-aged poet he hasn't written actually a book of poems for a few decades now, and he has a daughter who hates him. He is played by a newcomer, Ubema Rios, who I have no idea how they found this guy. It's almost like it's a cringe comedy. So it's about a poet who just basically fails his way through life more and more. And then he just has to get a job because him not writing poems obviously is not paying the bills. So he gets a job at a school and he starts mentoring this one girl who he thinks that her poetry is great, but she's not really that interested in poetry. But he sees it as his way to redeem himself in the eyes of himself, his community, his artistic community, as well as his family. It makes Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm cringe comedy seem quaint. This is one of the most cringy movies I've ever seen in my entire life, but it is so miraculous what they're able to pull off. It is so interesting and so hilarious, and I felt full body muscle contractions just cringing at how this movie plays out. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. A truly, truly great film. Another one I saw that I missed at TIFF was a Blue Heron. So Blue Heron, it reminded me honestly the most of After Sun, which is one of the best movies of the decade by far. So it's set in the 90s Vancouver, where it's a family. They settle into a new home. So it's all from the perspective of a young girl. So this movie is pretty autobiographical from the director. She has she's young. She's very observant. And so his family is kind of dealing with a very troubled oldest son who is emotional and has bursts of violence, but so they do love him, but they're trying to figure out how to actually manage him while protecting the younger siblings in the family. The way that they kind of use film as a way to do time periods, way to look back, reflect, and try and find the truth in what actually happened, whereas kind of understanding that you cannot fully document truthfully how something happened because it's all from your own perspective. You're writing and making a film. It is so touching and challenging of a film. It is a fascinating debut film. I cannot wait to see what Sophie Rivari, the director, does next, because this is one of those films that just completely just blew me away. One film I saw at TIFF that played here that I did not really like was called Sirāt. So it's going to be a Spain submission to the Oscars this year. It's about a man whose grown daughter's gone missing. So he drags his son around to try and find out where she is. So they get the idea that she could be at a rave in Morocco. So they drive there, ask around, trying to figure out where she is. They think that she might actually be at another rave. So she goes to a lot of partiers and ravers in a little convoy caravan across the desert to try and track down where she is. It's a very tense movie. It has a really interesting turn that unfortunately I don't think they do anything with. I think it's ultimately a film that has absolutely nothing to say. It's tense and it looks good. There's some good craftsmanship to it, but I think it's just a very empty film. It was a very frustrating movie because a lot of the parts in it I really, really enjoyed, but as a whole, I came out just feeling like pretty sour on it. The lead guy in it is actually the guy who plays the stepfather in Pan's Labyrinth, and he's good in it, but I think it's just a lot of missed potential. Probably the most challenging film I saw at TIFF, though, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, was it's an Israeli film called Yes. So it's set after October 7th, and it's about a musician and his wife who basically they almost act as like jesters and clowns to the upper rich class in Israel, who they basically mingle among all the elite there, trying to ends meet, but they themselves are pretty poor. So they're trying to build a good future for themselves, and he gets given an opportunity to create a new anthem to commemorate October 7th. And amongst the whole film, he and his wife are checking the phone and seeing the death tolls in Gaza. So they're completely morally conflicted about making this anthem. It's a lot of him just trying to do some soul searching, trying to see, like, can I use this as an opportunity to help my family in the future, build a better future for ourselves and kind of get out of this poverty. But also him just being morally conflicted with what his government and what his people are doing. There's some incredibly powerful scenes where they legitimately shoot the scenes, and they're just on a cliff overlooking Gaza getting like air shelled, and it is striking and powerful. Yeah, it was a very, very challenging movie because like there's parts of it that I feel like are kind of like rushed, muddled in message, but it's a very messy film. But having a film like this with a lot of actually like a lot of people comment on Letterboxd how many like Israeli film funds actually like put funding towards this film. And the fact that it is extremely anti government, it's a fascinating work of political art. I would absolutely check out this movie because it is like a fascinating Israeli perspective of someone who is very self-loathing of the situation right now. On the flip side of that, there's a film called it's probably the best documentary I've seen this year. It's called Put Your Soul in Your Hand and Walk. So it's by an Iranian filmmaker. She's an exile from Iran, so she can't go back there. So she is tries to work on a documentary. So she, through a series of video calls, she's gets in touch with a Palestinian photojournalist named Fatima Hassouna. So it's a documentary, basically her just having these little phone conversations over like WhatsApp video chats. Fatima's experience in Gaza as the whole conflict's happening, and you're literally seeing like through these video chats some eyes on the ground, like here's what's happening, here's what my family's doing, here is what's being in war, how we're suffering, here's like photos of like dead relatives, here is like just really heartbreaking stuff. But Fatima has such an infectiously positive personality to her, and it is so wonderful to like it's like just like crazy like see someone who just has like an upbeat positive personality when the world's like literally going to hell around them. What's really devastating about this film is that it was to be part of the Cannes Film Festival, and a few days later she was killed by an Israeli airstrike. The subject of the film is dead. It's just heartbreaking. It truly is just heartbreaking. There's no other way to say it. And I think like it feels just as essential as No Other Land in terms of being a documentary. This one actually being about the current phase of the Gaza war from a Palestinian perspective, rather than being about West Bank before the war. So very powerful documentary. I would recommend checking it. It's of course extremely sad, but So something a bit lighter. One of my favorite films of the festival is a movie called Fucktoys. Fucktoys is directed, written, and Aparna Sriram. So she plays a sex worker who has a curse placed upon her, and she's been told by multiple psychics that to break this curse, she has to pay them $1,000 as well as sacrifice a baby lamb. So it's a very wacky, funny, heightened reality as she's kind of going through like a very, very sexist society trying to make $1,000, and it plays so well with an audience. It is so funny. It's absolutely hilarious. It looks fantastic. It has a really, really cool aesthetic to it. And it has surprising, like, for a movie called Fucktoys, it has a great amount of emotion to it. I thought it was absolutely great. I hope it gets a theatrical release because it feels actually pretty transgressive. And I'm really excited to see what she does next because that is a really interesting performance and a really cool movie. One movie I was pretty iffy on was Chronology of Water, which is directed by Kristen Stewart. Stars Imogen Poots, and it's based on a memoir by Lydia Yukonovich. So it's about a woman who goes through absolute hell. Like, she is abused by her and her sister are abused sexually by her father, and pretty much paints her entire life with just, a lot of bad decisions, being put in bad situations with, bad people. And it is very upsetting to watch. It's a very upsetting watch, but it's well directed. Kristen Stewart is a really competent director. It has a bold style to it, but it feels just very overwhelming with its misery. But like, it's based on a true story, so of course it is. So you can't really knock it for being too miserable when that's what really happened. When like, it sounds like they cut things out from the memoir in real life that actually were worse too. I just feel like it's a hard one to talk about, because I truly think that like, if this movie was not based on a true story, you would think it was the most generic kind of like misery porn movie out there. But I'm excited to see what Kristen Stewart does as a director going forward, because this is a very competently directed movie, and it's a very bold first movie to make, with a lot of interesting visual flares and directorial choices. And I guess the last one I'm going to talk about, because I feel like talking about something a fair amount later, is it's called Silver Screamers. I actually know the director of photography. He's my buddy from high school. So it's about a group of seniors in Aurora, Ontario, who they work with a filmmaker, Sean Cisterna, who also directed Silver Screamers. He finds a subsidy that helps support senior activities, so he rallies a bunch of seniors to make a horror short film and actually be part of the production crew and everything. So it's a lot of seniors who are like trying to learn how film equipment works, and like learning how to like, every step of production, from pre-production to filming to post-production, like how a movie's made. What I really like about this movie too is, like, first off, the people who are involved with this, like the subjects, are absolutely energetic and magnetic people. It's so great to watch them actually, get out of their shells a little bit and do something that they never thought they were able to do. And it's actually a pretty good film about like how a movie gets made. It goes through the entire process of like, storyboarding, visual effects work, the prop work, how they procure props, the post-production work with the Foley work and such. So yeah, it's a really, really charming documentary, Silver Screamers. So yeah, that's a fun one to check out if you like horror films and, want to see something, Ontario and local. Yeah, so I had an absolute blast at the film festival. I definitely would recommend you checking out film festivals around you. It's a lot of fun. And again, some of the best parts of the film festivals is that you get to meet people who are just like you, who want to see a lot of movies and are really into film. So the film festival as local as this, you can actually get a chance to talk to the filmmakers too more directly. You have more opportunities than you would at something like TIFF, where it's just too big. So as a networking thing, that's also a fantastic thing too. If you are a filmmaker who actually wants to network or break in and meet some people, definitely go to a local film festival, because you'll get a good chance to actually meet and greet. Yeah, so this is just a quick little bonus episode. MoviePod will continue its regular format on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm covering Face Off. I have June and Kayla from the Kill the Computer podcast. They're joining me for a really fun discussion on that. We recorded that just the other day, and it's going to be great. You guys are going to like it. Yeah, so until next time, you can follow me on Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Twitter at bwishart, and you can follow MoviePod on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. You can also send letters in to the mailbag at moviepodmailbag@gmail.com. So until Tuesday, where we're discussing a movie where Nick Cage and John Travolta swap faces, take care.